All righty, we are live here with Annie Bogart. She is the chief of brand for Molzert Development. Annie, I want to start with something you posted about a year ago, and it's something that resonated with me. You said something along the lines of college is not the best 4 years of your life, which for some might be a controversial statement. For others, I think they might also resonate with it. But why did you post that? What was the reason behind that, and why do you feel that way?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up and that we can talk about it because I don't think enough people do. And, we really grow up and we just hear that phrase, college is the best 4 years of your life. And I think it was initially said so we can really understand how good we have it when we go there. But then on the other hand, it kind of creates this perception of like, if that's the best 4 years of your life, it makes it really depressing to graduate. And to think that, we lose value in our life when we don't have that lawless freedom. And it really messed with my head because then I'm like, well, if this is the best 4 years of my life, what am I walking into in my adult world? And um, it created such a block in my head, and especially in college too. In my case, I was in a sorority, and it kind of came junior year. You could really see who was ready to go into the real world or thinking about it and who wasn't. Because people did believe it was the best 4 years and they wanted to escape. They wanted to avoid this post grad. People really forget to put passion into their careers. And I think in college, you lose that, or you're reaching the end and you're like, well, I want to do something powerful with myself. I don't know what that is. And so when we kind of stop pushing that narrative of like, it's the best 4 years of your life, it's like, it's a great 4 years, but you just wait for the potential that you have as an adult. And once I really dropped that bias, it made me really hungry for, to go find what I want to do and to not make college. Like I almost had a point to prove. I'm like, I'm going to prove that my life is going to get greater as it goes on. So yeah, I'm really happy that that's the post that you resonated with. I want a little more people to feel a little hungrier after college
Mm-hmm.
about like, cool, I'm going to go take on the world. I'm going to go start my own thing, and push people to kind of take a chance on themselves in that area.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would tell my friends the same thing. It's like we while we're in the 4 years, it's like, yes, this is amazing. But I'm like, guys, this if this is the best 4 years of our life, then like you're just giving up on the rest of it. Like what are we talking about here? There's so much more to give. Yes, this is amazing.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But if we're just accepting that this is the best 4 years of our life, like what value is there in that
Mhm.
for any of us? So love
And
that
a
post.
quick hot take, I will say, and then it's funny when you meet people in your adult career and then whatever industry they lay in, and they still agree that college is the best 4 years of your life. I look at them differently a little bit, and I'm just like, dang, do you really hate your job that much?
Mm, that is
Yeah.
a very, very good point. You mentioned something there about how it kind of sparked you to find what you're passionate about. I'm curious when you knew, like, were you always into marketing? Obviously, you were working at the Bowl and you did some great stuff there that everybody in Lawrence knows about. When did marketing become like, okay, this is the thing I want to do when I leave college?
Yeah, for sure. So at KU, I graduated with a double major in strategic communications through the journalism school, and then also a psychology degree, which really started out just as something fun. I had some space to take extra classes, and marketing and psychology go so hand in hand, and it was honestly just something I was fascinated in learning about. Those classes were really fun. And I'm really lucky now it informs so much of the marketing that I do. But thank you for referencing my legacy at the Bowl. It's great to know that everyone still remembers. But I got an opportunity to manage the social media for that bar, and I found so much joy in it because I had no one telling me what to do and how to post, and I really got to just take my vision and run with it. I knew though that post grad, if I was looking for a job managing social media for a large company, I wouldn't have that freedom, and I'd probably be at a cubicle. I just had this vision of me in the back of a room in a dark corner, and they just sent me Canva all day. I know myself. I cannot do that at all. And so I actually pushed myself into sales roles post grad. I've always served, always bartended. I'm people oriented, and was working for a small marketing firm out of college. And that is when I saw Zach. Kansas City business journal and a bunch of posts had gone out about him. And I did know him through like some family friend connections, just really the lore of him. If you knew Zach, he's just an enigma. I reached out to him through this company and I was like, you have all the makings of such a successful person. And I know you see the value in social media, but you are so busy. Let me do this. And I laid him out exactly what you see on his Instagram today. Like, this is the vision. And was very lucky when he hired me on full time to just take that vision and run. And I give him a lot of props for having that trust. But then also, as an individual starting your own business, the last thing you honestly think of is like who your first hire is. And he saw the value so much that before he even figured out how to pay me, he was like, I'm going to figure out some things because I know that she needs this. So, yeah, that is how I got connected with Zach and some of his other investors, Cardinal Crest, and it's been a whirlwind ever since.
Okay, so walk me through the first. You come in at the time, I think you had, or Molzer Development had around 189 followers or 200 followers or something like that. Walk me through what it was like going from that to where you are today, where you've got 135,000 followers on Instagram. You guys are crushing it. Was it a slow build? I guess just kind of walk me through that story and the journey of how you went from initial outreach to where you are today. Probably a long story, but if you could give me some of the highlights, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Yeah. What was one thing I had so much confidence walking in? I was like, wow, I just got myself a job out of nowhere. And then it hit. I just got myself a job out of nowhere. I have no idea what I'm doing. Um, and so, it was funny because literally the Aladdin was an abandoned hotel. Everything from COVID was still in there. So it really just started, me and Zach would just show up, no script. And we just start like filming. It's like when you're like sleepover with your friends, you're just like, haha, you look funny doing that, do that. Um, and there was so many buckets to dip into that it was such a slow burn. 7 months, we would just post whatever we could. And it was really hard on me, the imposter syndrome anyone has in this. But, I just convinced somebody to give me a job. And I told him this is what I wanted to do and what could be done. Now I had that hanging over my head, and just something wasn't working. And we were slowly building really within the Kansas City community. If you go look at the first video that I've posted, I seriously just filmed it. There's no microphones, there's no closed captioning. Worst video ever compared to now. It's a full production. Um, and there was a video, yes, that everything changed because, and it wasn't the Aladdin's amazing story. It wasn't that Zach was 24 years old. It was because we poured, and I could probably say the script from memory. Let me tell you why we spent $15,000 on pouring a random concrete pad in the back of our 100-year-old building. And it went into the intro. My name's Zach. I'm 24. I do A, B, and C. And it was just the dumbest thing. It was seriously, the elevator inside's too small. We need one on the outside to lift materials up. So we had to pour a random concrete pad. The thing was, he walked away, and this was planned. He had the microphone and he used the term erected. The elevator got erected, which is the technical term. He giggled when he walked away and said, ha ha ha, erected. Funny word. Immediately, thousands, we seriously jumped to, I think, 15,000 from 700 in one day. It was amazing. And what we saw from that was a couple things, which fuels our strategy still to this day, is that hook. It doesn't really matter what it is. It really just has to pique people's interest. And then you have a culmination of the mission behind what we're doing is amazing. You have Zach, whose personality is just what following for that. And that was the moment everything changed. So granted, social media growth is exponential growth. So I think we hit 15,000, and then within the next 3 months, we had 100,000 followers on Instagram, which was just insane.
Okay, there's a bunch we can go into there, but I want to get into the tactical bits of it where you mentioned the key was the hook. I think there's also a bit of the fact that he was just being genuinely authentic and funny and himself in that moment. But let's talk about some of the actual sort of tactics behind making a quality video. If you're looking at sort of a blank slate, let's say, for example, it's a roofing company, right? You come in, you're the chief brand officer of a roofing company. you're looking at their situation in marketing. How do you go about saying how do we create content that people are actually going to watch, care about, and stop scrolling for? What is kind of the frameworks you use when you're creating the content?
Yeah, that's a great question. And before we dive too much into that, I think it's important that people understand there's different purposes of each someone's social media, and especially the type of business and clientele they're trying to attract. While Moles development, we're getting great brand deals. That's amazing. And subs and contractors, but overall, the value of our account and the amount of like pool of money that Zach now has to pull from to invest in new projects, that is great. So, say take a roofing company, you would imagine, their clientele, people that need their roof done, people that need things fixed. And I think that's what a lot of people just instantly think. They're like, okay, we're just going to market to the people that need our roof fixed. So with that, you might do, if you're in this area, call the number below. Because people kind of limited of like, okay, I need a customer, so I'm going to talk to my customer. I see a lot of creativity in what you can do. Why would people, if I already get my roof fixed, like, why am I still following your social media? There has to be another pull to why I'm here. So say it was a roofing company. My first start would be, tell me who founded the roofing company, what was the mission and their story. What's something more that we can put to this? Because at the end, it's probably not a roofing company. It might be a family business. It might be some gentleman who quit his big lavish corporate job because he wanted to go work for himself. And so finding the underlying story of what is driving this business besides the clientele, I think is so, so important. And a lot of people don't do that because a lot of people don't want to be the face on social media. Even just off the top of my head, I love to just watch people do things. So you can even have a series with roofing where it is just time lapse ASMR of somebody installing a roof. Those are those really easy videos that, yeah, I'd probably like enter a black hole of social media algorithm watching people do roofs. Um, and then kind of talking about the bigger things like, yeah, your roof is being fixed. Well, like, why is it so important to have a great roof? If it is just something like, okay, it looks bad, who cares? Like, no, it actually probably helps with a lot of your insulation and can cut down cost on all the HVAC systems that are operating. And, it's really just about digging deeper from the main point that you want to share. Cool. You want to have your roof. Why? Is it A, B, and C reasons? And then using those reasons to then tell a story. So really understanding that founding story, but then also having a call to action on our videos is something that I've learned more recently. Okay, cool. You've got somebody in this story. They're invested. They care. What are they doing at the end of this video? Are they following along? Are they saving so they can hire a roofing company? Or are they just doing something else? So having those call outs and those call to actions, helps keeps your community involved, helps them feel important, a part of the decision-making process. And then at the end of the day, it's just to feel seen. People want to feel seen on social media. And so when you are engaging your audience and almost talking to them and asking their opinions, you are slowly not just building followers, but like loyal customers who might recommend you. Oh, you need roofing done? These hilarious guys on social media talk about roofs, and hope that can answer a question.
No, that's great. I
So
think a great point you made there is, why do you keep following, right? So if you're a roofing company and somebody needs a roof, that's a one-time thing. Maybe once every 15 to 30 years they need a roof. But the question is, if you want to build an audience, why do they keep following? Well, it's not because they need a roof every other week, right? And that's what we're trying to achieve here, right? We sell insurance and compliance management technology, but nobody really cares about that. So they're not going to continue to follow us if we're just talking about your general liability policy limit is too low. And so our goal with this is, how do we create content that people actually care about? And even if it's not sort of directly correlated to your core offering, would you say that that's still a good content to promote? Like you guys are talking about the bus stop or whatever.
yeah.
That's not necessarily directly correlated, but it's a reason for people to follow along, because now over the next 4 or 6 months, they can follow the journey of the bus stop, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, and I will say it's funny that you mentioned kind of your business. I was on a call this morning about, we're kind of starting our own little marketing firm, and one of the potential clients is insurance. And I'm elated to do insurance because, and I will say, a lot of marketing majors, I used to want to be working with the fun, beautiful, creative brands. I want to work with Rode. I want to work with Aloe in college because I'm like, that stuff you can market, and that stuff's easy to market. Everyone wants the fun, cool thing. But if marketing insurance is such a creative opportunity, because just like development, it's such an untapped industry because people see it as boring. And there's your story and there's your hook right there. Like, I'm in the most boring industry in the world. Let me tell you about it. Or like insurance is so confusing. I'm going to explain it to you like a second grader. BT dubs, if you need some video scripts, be more than happy to send some over because it was super, super cool. But yeah, and then I also was asked a couple months back to help somebody run their bar Instagram. And I was like, okay, my first thought, I'm like, who are your faces? Who are your characters that you want to show? And they said, no one, nobody wants to be on camera. And I was stumped, and they're like, but we don't really care. We're not trying to grow our social media account. We just need a landing page so people can see when we're open. And I was so stumped because I'm like, social media doesn't exist for that reason anymore. Social media accounts are here to grow. Your website has that information, and people can go seek it there. And I do personally see social media as opportunity to grow and to be used as a platform for your founder's message or the bus stop or some of that silly stuff. So I will, that is not everyone probably believes in that like I do, but that's my opinion on social media.
The imposter syndrome and putting yourself out there, I think is a major holdback for some people. Personally, I mean, I definitely feel it. I've been preparing for the last month for this major push in the next year. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the vulnerability or the feedback you get when you're young and you're posting on social media? Let's say, you're talking to the entrepreneur out there who just started his HVAC company and he's hesitant about posting himself on social media. What's your advice for that person?
Yeah, love this question too. And it's really fascinating. Up until college, there is always a very distinct hierarchy of where we are placed, usually determined by grade. So, senior in high school, senior in college, you're creme de la creme. You've got senioritis. You're a little rude to the freshmen. You're like, get out of my way. And, we live by these hierarchies. We know when we're bottom of the fish totem pole and then like top of the chain. And then the real world starts. And a lot of people have this perception that they are like bottom of the food chain here. And a lot of older individuals act like they are top of the food chain and act towards younger individuals. That makes us have this imposter syndrome. Like they're like, why do you not know this? Blah, blah, blah. And I think that is just the dumbest way to treat new people into this industry. You are the freshest mind out there. And your mind is fueled by curiosity when older individuals are very jaded and they say no way too easily because they think they know all of this. And so at least I've seen a lot of my friends entering their first job, like they are just treated bottom of the food chain. They're not given responsibility. Somebody's over their shoulder watching. And how is that supposed to grow your confidence in the workforce if somebody is constantly treating you like you are bottom of the food chain? And one really great thing with working with a 24-year-old is I get to see somebody my age who has over $40 million of deals coming to him, working constantly with city, the mayor, and all of these people. And people don't treat him like he's 24. People treat him just as an equal because he comes in with the confidence that he is. And he has done the work to prove that he knows what he's talking about. And the most important thing is he is humble. When we have imposter syndrome, it's usually fueled by very real things of like, I don't know this and I'm scared to look stupid. And we need to go forth in our life being like, I'm okay to look stupid because at the end of the day, I need to know this information and I'm going to do whatever it takes to grow. And I think that's what separates. There are people, imposter syndrome is real. Not trying to take that away from people, but it is up to us to be like, you know what, if everyone's going to act like I'm stupid, that's fine. I'm going to go seek out all the information I need. I'm going to embarrass myself because the cost of success is embarrassment. So it's really the people that can just have that blind confidence and go out into the world being like, I'm going to do so great. Even if I don't, I tried and I'm going to do it again.
I think a good point there is talking about what you know, right? And the humility of it. I think where some people might be hesitant to start posting on social media is when they feel like they need to talk about things that they're not familiar with, or they need to flex. Like you see the traditional influencer out there, and it's like, okay, well, I don't want to be the guru or the cocky guy on Instagram. And it's like, well, you don't have to approach it like that, right? When you watch Zach's posts, you don't come across thinking this is a cocky person. He's just telling you what he knows. So I think maybe some advice to that, the person who's in the position we're talking about is post what you know, talk about what you know, and don't post something unless you're confident in your ability to talk about it. So let's say, hey, there's this topic out there that I want to discuss. Well, go learn about it first, and then you'll have the confidence to actually put that content out there and not be worried about what people say.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm really a fan of these influencers too that, and this is kind of that psychology coming into play. They understand that two things can be true at once, and really being like, you know what, I like your point. This is specifically what I'm going to talk about. This is specifically what I know. And then just leaving that note that really opens it up. What do you think? This is what I believe, and I'm safe, like fine in that belief, but like tell me what you know, or what are your thoughts on this, and just know, like acknowledging we don't know everything, and also that how we believe is so influenced by our lives and everything that has happened to us, and we're not supposed to think the same. And it sucks that people are so scared of that when we should really accept it. And yeah.
So you talked about early on that first video you had no mics, there was no closed captioning. If you're talking to the solo entrepreneur who has never posted something in his life, right? Let's say there's a landscaper out there who's never posted anything. Um, what are kind of the first things you need to get started to actually get out there? You see some videos that are super highly produced and they look great. They've got drone footage, but it obviously doesn't have to start there. So what is your kind of advice for the person who's just getting started? All they have is a phone and 50 followers on Instagram.
I love it. If I was to send them with homework to go do today, it would be set up your phone, talk about yourself, make it long, make it really awkward, mess up your words a bunch, post it on the internet, and then shut off your phone for the next day. Just dive in psychology, when you're talking about so silly, like overcoming like a mental disorder and stuff. They have this theory, and it's just called jumping off the cliff into it, and how sometimes it can be really, really scary because you get all the feelings at once and you're addressing everything. But when it's social media, not as aggressive as mental health, obviously, diving in straight first almost clears your mind in a way. And with social media, there's so much noise out there. It's so hard to start because you're so embarrassed by your starting point, when in reality, like that is your first step. And growing 1% every single day is the only method you can focus on. So this first video, you just absolutely word vomited and you were embarrassing, and that's great. Your next video, you might write a script for it. Then 5 videos later, you might add subtext or subtitles. And then after that, you might be moving your camera around to different locations. And you're not supposed to start wonderfully at all. And no one does. That's very unnatural. I mean, even to see how our account has grown, I'm embarrassed to go look at our old videos. But even those, there was support. There is a lot of community in social media, and you'd be surprised how often people are supportive rather than negative to people trying their own thing.
Okay, let's talk specifics. You've mentioned a few. Okay, the next you get closed captioning, then you go to different sort of scenes. What are the specifics of how to go? Okay, so they do that first video, right? Where they post it. It's just a zero editing was done. If you want to take that person from where they are to, okay, this is actually some pretty good content. What are kind of the checklists that they should go through when putting a video out there?
Absolutely. Script is where to start. Script is everything. It's really nice to lay out your story beforehand so you can kind of polish it, know how you're speaking about it. And then your script guides almost everything else and makes the whole editing process easier, because when you script, you know what camera angles you're going to need. You're going to know how to edit too. And editing is a black hole of horribleness that I don't recommend a lot of people go down too often. So you start with your script. And then if you want how I write my scripts for Molzer, we start with a hook. We start with our question. We have our video idea that we're working off of. So, for example, this week, we're talking about gargoyles. because the Aladdin has gargoyles and they're very fascinating. So the topic is gargoyles. And then our script that we go is we always have a hook, we have context, we have a conflict, we have a turning point, and then we have a resolution, which is also like our call to action. And so then, okay, so you have your topic. How can I lay it out in a way that's interesting? So just off the top of my head for fun things, we got gargoyles. Maybe that hook is like, why do buildings nowadays not have gargoyles? Or why were gargoyles put on buildings in the first place? And then you have your context. The Aladdin has this many gargoyles. And then you think of your problem and whatnot. So again, script is where to start, and it can really make sure that you're covering everything that you want to, but also that you're ending the video nicely. It's a great way to track time and have that call to action, because that call to action is usually where you're going to retain your followers. Um, After that, we kind of go into different shots in scripting. So in a great video, you might start with a selfie camera and then you're in a different location. And then I'm seeing a gargoyle in one of the videos. And so when you have your script, it's nice to film because then you can plan, I'm going to shoot this line here, this line here. And it makes for a lot more enticing video, because we talk a lot about that hook, that verbal hook. There's also visual hooks, and our attention spans are less than a goldfish now. It's so important that we are doing everything we can to make a screen visually attractive for the audience.
One thing that I've been looking into as well is you put that video out there, and then how do you see what is working? And I'm not sure if you've sort of experimented with any of this, but having different variations of sort of each stage of that video, right? So I kind of go off like the hook, retain, reward, same kind of thing. The retain can be filled up with all sorts of different kinds of things, but having multiple different types of a hook, multiple different types of a retain, and multiple different rewards, you can then piece those together. So from one gargoyle video, have, let's say, three variations of a hook, three variations of a retain, three of a reward. You can mix those up in all sorts of different ways. And then when you post those out, you can see, okay, well, this hook worked better than this hook. It's technically the same exact story, but why did this hook work better? And then the next week, you can look at it and say, okay, that hook worked good because of XYZ. How do we incorporate that into this week? So I think just being able to systematize the way you go about it and understand, here's the variations we put together, what's working. I think that can help people a lot as well.
For sure. And that's such a great point. I will say, I think my biggest flaw as a chief of brand is that I try to invent the wheel way too often. And I get all these fun video ideas from different creators. And the thing is, though, is when we're always trying new ideas, our audience is not familiar with this new strategy. And some people that are very successful on social media. So take Yanni Mavrikis, who is in Chicago. He's rehabbing a 6-year-old bowling alley. Every single video he has, his voice consistency is the same. His captions are the same. That alone draws familiarity in his followers, and we like that as consumers. And so he's at 1 million followers. He's consistently getting at least 50,000 likes on a video. And yeah, he's not rewriting the wheel, and he knows, and he is taking insights from himself, what hooks work and what don't.
Mm-hmm. And then another interesting thing that you guys have been able to do is, because of the audience you've built, you've been able to bring in these other brand deals as well. And I think that is a very interesting thing for these people in the trades to know about, because once you create this brand, all these different other revenue streams start to roll in. Could you talk a little bit about how that happened? Was this something that was planned, and just the value that is created for you?
Yeah, I'll start by saying initially brand deals were what was the creme de la creme of growing this Instagram account. Obviously, to get our message out to whoever we could and share our story. But you see everyone making so much money on social media, and you're like, I would like that, please and thank you. And so that was our initial goal. But then, the more our account grew, we started seeing value in different other ways. And like you said, subs and trades. And, from Zach's perspective as a developer working with the construction companies on finding and hiring these trades, they're already vetting prices and whatnot. Now we get to come in and we have an entire DM list of 40 people who want to do the floors on the Aladdin and 50 people that want to invest in our next project. So the value of Zach's Instagram account and more of his business is honestly unmeasurable at this point. Um, because there's so many little things in his niche industry that we see a return on. If we need a building permit and we post about it, the city is probably going to give us a building permit a little bit faster than the next guy. And it's so important for us to keep on timelines in an industry that is notorious for being so slow. Um, so that is one thing. And then the brand deals are something else that's great because, you know, we use a lot of these system operations for ourselves. Company Cam is a great one. It's basically a camera app for your phone, but it's not syncing to your phone, so you're not losing storage. And it's a great app for communication between all of our subs and trades. And um, we get that for free now. That is saving Zach's company like a huge cost.
It's another way that people, like when you're typically thinking about a trade business and their social media presence, you the direct thought is how does this lead to customers? But the sort of external thing is, yeah, if you're a GC, for example, how does this lead to more qualified subs being in your inbox wanting to work with you? How does this lead to brand deals? How does it lead to all these other things that when you originally start, you might not have, realized. So I just think it's a great advice and another reason for people to put themselves out there and start posting. I want to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned, so when you reached out to Zach first, I think that's a bold move that a lot of people who are getting out of college might not take. They think, okay, I'm going to go to Indeed, I'm going to go to these job boards, and I'm just going to put my resume at the bottom of the pile. And that doesn't really do anything because it's the exact same thing that 99% of other applicants are going to do. So it doesn't make you stand out at all. Could you talk a little bit to the importance of just going for the job you want? Let's say you want to work at XYZ firm. Instead of applying for it, just like everyone else did, directly message the founder or owner of the firm. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. It's I wish everyone could get into sales for just a small second or just be so comfortable with people telling you no. And realizing then that is the worst thing that could happen is somebody says no. And that was really the mentality that I approached with Zach. Like, well, if he doesn't want to, I have a peace of mind. I tried, and whatnot. So, it's so funny. People ask me now, yeah, how did you get into development? You have such a cool job. And it's very interesting to be like, thank you. I created this job for myself because this is the job that I wanted for myself. And I just think it's a lot of people's understanding on how the world works. And people have that imposter syndrome and don't think that they can deserve to go ask for things. And um, staying very humble in that process, obviously, but even in college, before I, really had that resume built up that I do now, my professor said something with me that stuck. There was a marketing firm in Chicago and it was called like Skirt Marketing. And she said how I would apply for this, Annie, instead of sending in a resume, instead of going on Indeed, go buy a skirt, go print your resume on a skirt and go send it to them. And I was like, wow, you're right. That is a really, really good idea. And that was one that opened up my mind to be like, you really do have a lot more power than you give yourselves, especially these people seeking jobs. You can really be as creative as you want to during this process. And I also think it's cool that, give them a pitch they can't refuse. Zach, I had a Spotify playing of 1920s music in the back while we were talking, creating an environment where like, okay, if you said no, you're going to feel guilt that you said no. But yeah, I think a lot of people are just very timid and scared to do that. And I wish more people too, when I meet with individuals that are interested in my career and they're like, how can I do this? I'm like, go grow your personal brand. If you are in marketing, go find 5 shops and go make a free video for them. Because if you keep doing free work, then you'll be able to stop very soon and charge a lot of money for it. But when you go to these companies, it's not give me a job. It's like, this is exactly what I can do. This is why I'd be a great addition to your team. You have to convince them why you wouldn't just fit the job, but why you're going to help their company grow. So growing your personal brand. I'm on LinkedIn all the time now. And I spend time on my personal social media. That is what I would recommend people to do for sure. Along with having that confidence is go be a celebrity online in your respective field that people are begging for you to come work for them.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about psychology a little bit. How are you applying psychology to marketing? Obviously, they're essentially one and the same. Marketing, I would say marketing is more psychology than psychology is marketing, obviously. But what's your advice to people who want to start building their brand? What are sort of the tips and tricks of psychology that you try to apply to marketing?
I think what's really interesting are like our subconscious needs is what drives a lot of engagement in videos. So I mean, you look at all these series that go viral. This is day one of building the coolest cabin in the woods. We have a psychological need to watch that project completed. And then, when we are always consistent with it, so like those guys out in Virginia, they do a great job, same intro every day. It is satisfying to us, and it is a really great source of dopamine that we like. And I think just really understanding our need for dopamine and serotonin on our phones is great. So then, when that comes into the video scripts, the reason the hook is so important is the hook is like, how am I going to pique your subconscious interest? Because no, your conscious interest is not curious on why we poured a random concrete pad in the back of a 100-year-old building, but your subconscious is so curious why. Um, and I think that's a really, really cool thing. Another psychological thing that we all have is the need to feel seen and the need to feel heard. And so, even just something as subtle as like Zach going on the Instagram story and responding to comments and DMs, some person in the UK commenting, like, wow, we can see this. Zach following up, that makes that person feel seen. Granted, we have 130,000 followers. We probably won't see them all the time. They're going to keep following us because they felt important. And that's why engagement back with your community is also very vital. In social media itself, a lot of people are very fearful of me. Pardon my language, but what I do sometimes call myself is the bitch with a phone. When I first started with Zach, it's really difficult, and a lot of marketing people don't get a lot of respect because we are in the back of the room like this, filming everything, not talking to anyone. Nobody likes to be filmed. Um, and even just as simple as it is, like transparency with people goes such a long way. When I tell people, hi, I'm Annie, I come in, I do exactly A, B, and C. I'm going to film you doing A, B, and C. Is that okay with you? That communication like that builds a lot of trust. But definitely our overall need to be seen and heard is a huge thing that I would encourage people to incorporate into their strategy and whatever that looks like to their respective field.
Hmm. I think another great point you mentioned is watching the project completed is so applicable to the trades because for the most part, pretty much everything is a project, right? And so every project you have can become a story that you then present to your audience. And like you mentioned, once you have that good hook that starts the project, they're gonna want to see it through, which is, I mean, you're seeing that it's exactly what's happened with Molzer. People want to see these projects completed. Tell me about this new marketing agency you guys are launching and kind of why you're launching it and how people can get involved with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my story. I went to Zach. I saw somebody that was doing a lot, sees the value of social media, knows he has to be on social media, doesn't have the time. And that is a really common problem. I mean, social media now it's inescapable. You gotta be on it no matter what. Even if you're not constantly posting, it's a visibility thing. If your business doesn't exist on Instagram, you lose trust with 90% of your potential audience. Um, but everyone was so amazed because for a while, everyone thought Zach was doing the videos himself because that is typically what you see. It's just creators and founders taking an extra 30 hours a week late at night to do that. And, I stayed behind the scenes for quite a little bit and then kind of put my face out there more so people would know, no, he paid somebody to do this because I want people to see the value in marketing. Um, then everybody was coming up to me and they were just like, can you help me do some of this? Or everyone was saying, I need an Annie. I need somebody that knows what they're doing, that can tell me to shut up and just do their job. Um, and one really cool thing is the reason that we are able to, show so much in depth of what we're doing is because I am not just his marketing person. I'm his partner in Moser Development. I'm going to every OAC meeting, learning about all these investors, learning what it means to put an exterior elevator on and why, and HVAC systems and city permits and tax abatements. If you are using an out of house marketing team for Moser Development, they're not going to know any of that information. And what they would probably do is they'd probably go to the Aladdin once a week, take update photos, make a silly little aesthetic video of freaking drywall. And Zach's message is lost. And so the company is called First Person Narrative because it is us telling your story, the I, the we, the founders, not their company, it's your company. And this really almost investigative journalism approach of, okay, we're going to come in, we're going to act as your fractional CMO, we're going to learn everything about you, we're going to pop your bubble to be able to tell your story in those fun little quirky moments the best way, because we already have the system that works and we know that you don't have the time for it. So it's a couple different things. It's almost like an a la carte menu. So some of them will actually just be training. Companies that hire marketing individuals, they'll go through a training process with me, and then we'll just send them to their company, and then they'll have like bi-weekly check-ins with us to make sure that they're staying on their mission. Some people just need scripts written for them, but they can do all the filming and then they send it back to us to edit. There's a lot of different options because people need just different things. So pretty excited to get this rolling out soon. How it's going to work with two companies, we'll let you know down the line.
Yeah, very excited to see what you guys do there. In general, where can people go to find you? Who do you want following you, reaching out, all that good stuff?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on my LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to reach me because Zach controls all the Mulser development DMs. My LinkedIn is just Annie Bogart. I love connecting with students, especially that are really curious on, what that next step looks like and what some of those options can be, how to get that job, not on LinkedIn. And then just more individuals like us in those first couple years, they want to find something they're passionate about. They're so scared of the job market. I empathize, I understand. And I feel just very lucky to have an introduction into my industry. And I almost feel like I'm 5 years advanced, maybe, than where I should be. And I want to share those opportunities with other individuals.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be on here.